It's 7:07 on Monday, October 6, 2025. I call this town meeting to order. Mr. O'Leary.
Mr. Moderator, is this on here? Let's see.
Yeah, it's on.
Huh? It is?
Yeah, it's on. It takes 5 seconds.
Mr. Moderator. Nope.
Now you got it, it's on.
There we go. Delayed response. Mr. Moderator, I move the following non-registered voters or visitors be admitted to the meeting. Rob Carbone, NORCAM, Freedom of the Floor. Maureen Doherty, North Reading Transcript, Freedom of the Floor. And further, that the following non-registered voters be admitted to the meeting and permitted to sit with the officials and departments they serve. Susan Duplin, Town Clerk. Darren Klein, KP Law, Town Council. Stephanie Conley, Assistant Town Clerk. Delaney Sharkey, Staff. Danielle McKnight, Town Planner. Patrick Daly, Superintendent of Schools. Matthew Cooper. Harold Miller. Peter Farbell. Robert Collins. Lillian Hartman. Chris Thoman. Pasquale Giovino. Jason Smith. Marianne McKay. Matt Prince. Todd Wokel. Michael Conley. Nicole Montana. Debbie Carbone. Dan O'Donnell. Allison Kane. Sharon Kelleher. Mark Zimmerman. And Lydia Eldridge.
On the motion, we'll use the clickers as a test. So, on the motion, any discussion? Seeing none, could we open the vote? And you can choose yes or no.
All in favor? Right, this says you voted. No, it just tells you who voted, because you really voted on it.
We can close the vote. Motion carries, yes 147, no 13. They may come in to the hall. While they're coming in, I will use the clickers for all voting, unless it's an article in which we're passing over the article. I'll do that with a voice vote. I would ask that everyone please make sure their cell phone is turned off so it's not ringing in the middle of the meeting.
Good idea.
And I'd ask everyone to stay on point with the article on the floor, the article and the motion on the floor, not to talk about other town-related business. We're dealing with the business that's in the warrant tonight. Mr. O'Leary.
Pledge.
Pledge, please.
Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. O'Leary.
Moderator, I move to dispense with the reading of the warrant and to refer to the articles by number, and further to dispense with the reading of the return of service by constable.
have the motion. Any discussion? Seeing none? Actually, I won't use the clickers for this. I'll use a voice vote. I don't think you want the warrant read to you tonight before we get to it. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Unanimous? Mr. O'Leary.
Mr. Moderator, I move to hear reports of town officers and committees as may be presented at this meeting. Mr. Moderator, the Select Board would ask for a leave of the meeting for an additional 5 minutes to give a report.
So 10-minute, total 10-minute leave of the meeting. The
Maximum.
Board of Selectmen would like a 10-minute leave of the meeting for purposes of a presentation, which will address all the other items in the warrant, I assume. So,
Somewhat.
any further discussion on that? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. 10 minutes, Mr. O'Leary.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. And for all of you this evening, thank you very much for being in attendance this evening. It's greatly appreciated that you're exercising your right to have your voices heard, your voices count, your votes count, and your participation is greatly appreciated. This is a busy time of year for North Reading, and the Select Board would like to give you an update on what's occurring now, we can anticipate looking forward to in the not-too-distant future. We'd like to talk on basically 3 different subject matters: ongoing infrastructure and building projects, ongoing building project planning, and continuing budget challenges, shortfalls, and necessary reductions. But before we get into that, I'd like to report on the MBTA Communities Act 3A Act. Just this past June, we enacted new zoning bylaws to come into compliance. And this past week, we were notified by the Attorney General's office had approved the new bylaw and zoning changes. In total, no changes. Additionally, we were sent an official notice of the compliance from the State Executive Office of Housing and Livable Communities that North Reading is in compliance with the law. The approval and notice of compliance means that the 55 plus at Martin's Landing is codified, allowed, and included within our bylaws. The total number of units available for development within the district is capped at the current number of units that currently exist, 908, and that North Reading is now eligible for state funding and grants moving forward. So congratulations to you, the voters. Congratulations to Town Planner Danielle McKnight for all of her hard work and patience in dealing with all of us. Town Administrator Michael Gilberto, Town Council, KP Law, Select Board, Community Planning Commission, Finance Committee, and all who participated in the process. We can now move forward. So congratulations. So the ongoing infrastructure and building projects. First of all, Park Street Bridge. Paving is complete. The road is expected to open this week. After the guardrails are put in, just to make sure people stay within your lanes. So this week. The Chestnut Street Bridge. The delays associated with National Grid utility work is really what stifled, along with the Park Street Bridge. National Grid's utility work held up the work. Construction is underway. Anticipated reopening in the spring of 2026. However, potentially sooner if weather cooperates. So it could be by the end of the year, depending upon the weather. But they're really going to town on it now, so that will be done before we know it. Town Center Sewer. Construction is ongoing, in case you haven't noticed. Connection of the municipal and school buildings to the package treatment plant associated with the middle school, high school project to be completed next summer. The $1.5 million project was funded through federal grants secured through Congressman Moulton, Senators Warren and Markey's efforts and advocacy, and we're fortunate that it made the cut and didn't get cut. So that project there, again, is ongoing and will be completed by the summer. Library, elevator, and air conditioning. Unanticipated elevator failure at the library had put us at risk of having to close the library altogether until it was fixed. We requested a waiver from the State Architectural Barrier Board, which was granted, and thanks to Todd Wokel for spearheading that effort, which was requested and granted, requiring us to put up a temporary ramp. If you haven't been through the center of town in front of the library, you see this giant structure shooting out from the front stairs of the library and heading over towards Croswell Funeral Home. We anticipate that this is going to be a 6-month rehab project, so the ramp will be there, but at least it gives accessibility for those who need it, at least to the first floor. And again, the patience and diligence and assistance of our library staff, I know, was greatly appreciated by the residents who utilize the facility. So again, we're talking 6 months for this temporary ramp. And then as far as the air conditioning, which is long overdue in that particular facility, we anticipate completion of that system in time for the next summer season. So again, for the staff at the library, Sharon and your group, you're doing a fantastic job through very difficult circumstances. And to the residents, again, thank you for your patience. But again, Todd, again, 6 months, again, and we're underway. Road and street maintenance reclamation, that's ongoing. If you recall, over the last several years, there's been a significant increase in funding for these projects in our neighborhoods and on the main roads, accelerating the schedule to avoid additional costs by delaying. We'll be asking tonight to continue your support for these efforts. So additional state funding was awarded since June town meeting, and again, we appreciate the efforts of both Senator Tarr and Representative Jones for advocating on our behalf and getting us these additional funds. So what we're looking to do is, again, step up the projects, get some of these other roads that are tough shape done, particularly Concord Street. Then additionally, the North Street section will be addressed in the next season. But Concord Street is the first one on the list. So you'll be looking for your support on those articles this evening. Burroughs Road Bridge. Again, we anticipate at some point within the next year or two, a temporary structure to be put into place to replace the Burroughs Road Bridge. And that can be done in a very short period of time, the temporary measures. As we determine the nature of the needs and what type of structure is going to have to be in a permanent place, which will be several years down the road. Just to give you an idea, the replacement of the Burroughs Road Bridge could be of the same magnitude as the Chestnut Street Bridge from a dollars and cents standpoint, so it's going to be extremely expensive. Meantime, we're addressing it. The Department of Public Works has done a great job of making sure that it's safe and able to get over back and forth, but we will be doing at some point some sort of temporary structure, and we'll be coming back to town meeting for appropriations for that. Now, ongoing building project planning. The Facilities Master Plan Committee has completed their work and recently submitted their final report to the Select Board last month. It is available on the town website. I want to thank again Chair Abby Herbert, members Don Kelleher, Mark Hall, Nick Massey, Scott Buckley, Dave Rudloff, Todd Wokel, and former members Kate Magnapelli and Warren Pierce. They have given us a working document to be used as a planning tool for utilization, maintenance, upkeep, expansion, and replacement of our major town facilities. We're extremely grateful for their tireless efforts and the completion of their work. And again, round of applause for them. Again, the Facilities Master Plan, again, their evaluation and assessment included most of the major structures that come under the town. Again, things such as the fire station, which is an ongoing project, currently under evaluation to renovate the existing station as well as a potential substation on the west side of town. That's ongoing. They looked at the third meeting house, the Damon Tavern, a potential intergenerational community senior center, which we will be talking about tonight. Town Hall, the Wheeler Barn, which serves as the Parks and Recreation Maintenance Facility, and the Hood and Little School Modular Replacement, which an update will be given to you this evening. All of these facilities need attention and further evaluation. While available funds could subsidize the cost of some of these projects, a tax increase or dramatic municipal and school budget cuts would be required to pay for them. We will continue to evaluate and prioritize through the planning process, public input, and of course, report back to town meeting before moving forward on any project. The Select Board has prioritized the potential intergenerational community senior center for preliminary consideration this evening. This evening, the hope is to inform you, discuss, and decide how to move forward to meet the immediate, interim, and long-term needs of our Elder Services Department and programming. Now let's talk a little bit about the continuing budget shortfalls and necessary reductions. Our ability to maintain level services within the confines of Proposition 2.5 has evaporated. An analysis of our 20-year historical growth at current services levels have shown that our fixed rate costs, such as health insurance, debt service, regular insurance, and things like that alike, have experienced an average growth rate of 5%. Overall municipal government operations have experienced a growth rate of 3.3%. And the school costs, 4.1%. You don't have to have a master's degree or PhD degree in mathematics to figure out that if you're capped at 2.5% plus new growth, things get tight. Now, we have experienced some substantial new growth over the last several years, which has allowed us to maintain a current level of services fairly well over the last few years. Over the last couple of years, there's already been significant budget cuts that have been required over the past couple of years. The trend is expected to continue for the upcoming year, further impacting school and municipal services. Tonight, you will be asked to amend the current year operating budget, all utilizing existing revenue and available funds. No new taxation, just a shifting of available resources. Included in the request is $9,800 to fund the Elder Services expenses to fund a second day of lease space for programming to cover the loss of a state grant money to fund the program. We found out about that loss after town meeting. So we've prioritized to get that money restored. We anticipate that further grant funding reductions for the foreseeable future. Federal grant monies earmarked for local communities is generally distributed through the state. There's been a significant reduction of the federal funds flowing to the state for this distribution. While the state is attempting to allocate additional resources and funding to offset these reductions, the state will not be able to restore all of the lost revenue. Therefore, competition for grant funding will increase and a decrease in available funds. Senator Tarr and Representative Jones will continue to advocate for us and work to restore the funding. We appreciate their ongoing efforts and their advocacy. The Select Board, School Committee, Finance Committee will continue their ongoing efforts to present you with balanced budgets and the impact of our costs to operate outstripping our revenue sources. While we have what some may consider substantial reserves, savings accounts, we must be careful not to spend one-time resources on ongoing operating expenses. We must be aware that if we spend down our savings accounts, the income, which is the interest generated from those accounts, are no longer available. Our taxes are not going down. It appears that if we continue to operate within the confines of Proposition 2.5, we will be paying more to get less. The Select Board has not discussed or considered an override for operating expenses. We are entering the budget season cycle, and the impact on revenue shortfalls to maintain level services will be discussed at length, and difficult choices will have to be made. We invite your input. We invite your participation. We ask you to volunteer. Join us. Again, everybody up here are taxpayers and voters just like you, and we need some more help. So feel free to join us and volunteer. The Select Board hopes that you have found this to be informative and useful as you consider the articles before you tonight and thinking ahead to the challenges we face as a community together. Thank you very much.
Are there any other committees or town offices seeking recognition for a report? That's the only report. Seeing none. All those in favor, please say aye. Oh, I'm sorry.
So, as anybody who's been to the hearings, we've three by the ZBA so far, or two? I think two. Coming to our third. So this is something that anyone who's been in town since really when it hit the spotlight in early 2019, it's where Teresa Prime is. That's the 20 Elm location. So at one point in time, just to give a little background, Mr. Yeba, who's the proprietor there, who we were directly dealing with, about a year ago after, or actually now, a year and a half ago, after a favorable ruling at the state level that the project could go through and the town did not meet safe harbor, we came to find out that, roughly about a year later, right, he sold the plans to Trumbull Crow, which is a much larger company. I can describe it as a smaller Pulte. Okay. So now their latest plan, which they presented and filed, is to go for the full 200 unit. Now, the ZBA can now go through it and decide if they can trim units here, or whether or not certain other requirements have to be met. However, for lack of a better way to put it, the burden is going to be on us to try to find something, or the ZBA, more importantly, to try to find something favorable for the town under the current circumstances. The decision, it says here due late February. Wouldn't be shocked if it's delayed a bit, depending on what gets asked. They have been willing to cooperate so far on requests when we need to. For example, there was early on after the first meeting, they wanted the clock to start, and we said no because there wasn't a full application in. And then the next public hearing, do we have that date? Do we have the date yet? I'll look up the calendar. October, right? Yep. So the 23rd of October, we have another select board meeting before that, which will confirm the date, and it'll get publicized pretty well. So it's nothing small. But as I've said throughout this process, this is not for approval. This is to do the best we can. So there is no stopping it. We tried, and we're doing pretty good. And then the state changed the rules. Shock. So, and I only say it because already on social media I've seen that, well, we need to get the voters down when this comes up for a vote. There's none of that. Right now it's just a question of what the ZBA can do, what requirements that will be better for the town that won't get rejected on appeal. Okay, so, and I'm sure the ZBA will do their best to get North Reading the best possible scenario under the circumstances. So go there on the 23rd when there's other meetings. It's all going to be primarily out of the ZBA. It's a pretty strict process, so it's not going to be in front of the select board. We all have our own opinions. Everybody's heard mine on this and other people's, but make your voice heard there, because maybe if there's something that we're all complaining about enough, the developer's willing to play ball, for lack of a better word. But I just felt it was important because there's a lot of, I wouldn't call misinformation, it's just that we haven't had one of these in a while. And in reality, this has been delayed now 6 years. I think without COVID, this would have already been built. To be honest with you, I don't know how many units would have been there, but it would have been an amount. So we just wanted to make sure that everybody's aware of that. And bring your questions there. And also, I believe that the ZBA secretary, and we have an email address, it's on file, right? On the ZBA, is accepting comment. So if you cannot make the meetings, if you email in advance by 2-3 weeks to the ZBA secretary, they will try to ask those questions on your behalf if they don't have the answers already. So, thank you, Mr. Moderator.
Thank you. Sorry about that. So the two reports, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Article 2.
Article 2, can you hear me? Good. Prior year bills. The motion is to appropriate $1,000 for two $500 DPW invoices for drain system cleaning and $875.75 for information technology invoice for technical services at the police department. The select board recommended. Yep. Yep. Motion 1. I move to authorize payment of bills of a fiscal year from fiscal year 2026 operating budget approved under Article 16 on June 9, 2025 spring annual town meeting as follows. Drain cleaning in the amount of $1,000 to be paid from line 52, public works expenses for stormwater, and technical services invoice for services at the police department in the amount of $878.75 to be paid from line 31, information systems expenses, as specified in Article 2 as printed in the warrant.
Recommendation from the Select Board.
Select board recommended.
For the Finance Committee. Finance Committee recommends. Further discussion? This requires a 4/5 vote. I will use the clickers. Could we open voting on this, please? Could you vote yes or no? This requires a 4/5 vote for these bills to be paid. We'll close the voting. It passes 180 yes, 9 no. Mr. Wallner.
Article 3, create and transfer funds as special purpose stabilization fund. I move to pass over Article 3 as printed in the warrant.
Recommendation from the Select Board.
Select Board recommend 4-0 and 1 member absent.
Finance Committee. Finance Committee recommends as well. Any discussion? Yeah, you want to?
Everybody hear me okay? Through you, Mr. Moderator, we're passing over this article because the transfer that was contemplated is going to take place under a later article, transfer into the Capital Improvement Stabilization Fund.
Okay. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of passing over, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Unanimous. Article 4, Mr. Wallner.
Article 4, fiscal year 2026, appropriate or transfer funds to stabilization fund. I move to pass over Article 4 as printed in the warrant.
Recommendation for the Select Board.
Unanimous pass over.
Finance Committee.
Finance Committee recommends passing over.
Any further discussion? Mr. Roberto.
Through you, Mr. Moderator, after review of the town's financial standing, we're going to defer a potential transfer into the stabilization fund to potential action as part of the town's fiscal year 27 financing plan at the June of 2026 annual town meeting.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. Article 5, Mr. Wallner.
Article 5, fiscal year 2026, appropriate or transfer funds to capital improvement stabilization fund. I move to transfer from free cash the sum of $3,790,208 to be added to the capital improvement stabilization fund as specified in Article 5 as printed in the warrant.
Recommendation from the Select Board.
Select Board recommends 4-0, 1 absent.
Finance Committee,
Finance Committee recommends.
Smart.
further discussion. Mr. Gilberto.
Thank you. By way of continued explanation, the town generally makes a transfer into the Capital Improvement Stabilization Fund in the amount of $250,000 at the fall annual town meeting. This is clearly a much larger transfer, and it reflects the town's ability to use, for the last fiscal year, federal funding to cover expenses associated with health insurance in the amount of approximately $3.5 million. So with that federal funding being able to be utilized for that purpose, it generated money that was raised and appropriated that became surplus, which we are now proposing to transfer into the Capital Improvement Stabilization Fund to be utilized for a project or for debt service in accordance with a vote that would be required at a future town meeting. So this vote will effectively set that money aside for future use for capital or debt service purposes.
Mr. Massey, you seeking recognition? No. Oh, okay. Any further discussion? Okay, we will use the clickers for this. This requires a majority vote. Could we please open the voting? We're open. Could we close the voting?
We're closed.
Motion carries 179 yes, 7 no. Article 6, Mr. Massey.
Good evening, everyone. Mr. Moderator, Article 6, I move to transfer from free cash the sum of $11,681 to be added to the Solid Waste Stabilization Fund as specified in Article 6 as printed in the warrant.
Recommendation for the Select Board.
Select Board unanimously recommends.
Finance Committee.
Finance Committee recommends.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, could we open the voting?
We're open.
It's open. Could we close the voting? Carries 178 yes, 6 no. Article 7, Mr. Massey.
Mr. Moderator, Article 7, I move to transfer from free cash the sum of $182,000 to be added to the participating funding arrangement fund as specified in Article 7 as printed in the warrant.
Recommendation for the Select Board, Mr. Massey.
Select Board recommends 4-0 with one member absent.
Finance Committee.
Finance Committee recommends.
Further discussion, Mr. Gilberto.
Sure. Through you, Mr. Moderator, by way of brief explanation, this $182,000 reflects what's left over from our health insurance budget as part of our participating funding arrangement. What we do is the town has a share and the employees have a share as well. Money's set aside when it's determined to be surplus for use to offset costs in a future fiscal year. The town's portion is set aside into this stabilization fund, which was established by town meeting probably 8 years ago now.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, could we open the voting, please?
We're open.
Open. Could we close the voting?
And recording.
Yes, 177, no, 6. Motion carries. Article 8, Mr. O'Leary.
Mr. Moderator, I move to amend the fiscal year 2026 operating budget approved under Article 16 of the June 9, 2025 Spring Annual Town Meeting as follows. Appropriate $2,838,924 from the Secondary School Building Project Debt Service Special Purpose Stabilization Fund to line 101, Debt Service, to pay down the bond anticipation note for the middle high school construction project. Appropriate $550,000 from the Water Infrastructure Stabilization Fund to line 105, Water Enterprise Debt, to pay down the bond anticipation note for 9 Mill Street, which is expected to be sold after the October town meeting. Appropriate $50,000 from the Water Enterprise Retained Earnings line 103, Water Enterprise Expenses, to fund real estate broker services for the conveyance of 9 Mill Street. Amend line 55, Solid Waste Management Expenses, to change funding sources from raise and appropriate the sum of $1,462,180 to now be funded as follows. $1,422,180 from raise and appropriate, and $40,000 from the Solid Waste Stabilization Fund. Transfer $9,800 from line 51, DPW salaries, to line 63, Elder Services expenses, to fund the second day of leased space for programming. And to transfer $30,000 from line 18, accounting salaries, to line 17, finance salaries, to fund the position of Assistant Finance Director.
Recommendation from the Select Board.
The Select Board, on the first item, recommends on a vote of 4-0-1 with one recusal in favor, and recommended for the rest of lines 2 through 6 unanimously.
Finance Committee, recommendation.
Finance Committee recommends.
Further discussion?
Mr. Moderator, thank you.
Mr. O'Leary.
So, on the first item, again, if you recall, a few years back, we had some settlement funds through insurance carriers from our OPM and architect on this building here. Those funds were set aside in a separate fund, now amounts to $2,838,924. What we're recommending is that we now transfer those funds and make them available to pay down the debt service on this building so that we don't have to finance it moving forward permanently. Since we have the cash from the settlement, let's put it towards reducing the debt on the building so that we're not funding debt service moving forward on that 2.8, almost $2.9 million. So that's what that one is. As far as appropriate $550,000 from the Water Infrastructure Stabilization Fund to pay down the bonded anticipation note on 9 Mill Street. If you recall, when we were looking at going to the MWRA for water a few years back, this is not sewage, this is water, we purchased some land over at 9 Mill Street to provide a location for a pumping station to get the water from Reading to North Reading. We don't need that now because we have the long-term agreement with the town of Andover. We purchased the property for $700,000 at the time. The current balance is around $520,000. We anticipate selling this property and hopefully transferring it before Christmas time. What we want to do is we want to pay down the debt on this right now through the stabilization fund. If we do not do that, it will go to permanent financing come May, and we'll be paying on something over a 10-year time period for something that we don't have anymore. So from a fiscal standpoint, it makes sense to pay it down now. And then what we'll be doing is we will reimburse the stabilization fund when the sales of the proceeds come in. So what we're asking you to do is authorize us to do this, to pay it down now so we're not paying interest on long-term debt on an asset that we will no longer have. $50,000 from Water Enterprise to fund the real estate broker fees for the sale of 9 Mill Street. So again, we're going to need some funding to effectuate the sale and bring it to fruition and closure, as I said, hopefully by Christmas time. So we need to appropriate some money to have available to pay for the services to dispose of Mill Street. Again, $40,000 from the Solid Waste Stabilization Fund and $1,422,108 from Raise and Appropriate. This is the Solid Waste Management Fund. What we're doing here is, instead of, we have a bit of a deficit in the account right now. So what we want to do is use money from the stabilization fund to close that gap so that we do not have to raise fees on trash to cover the costs. We have money in the stabilization fund just for this purposes. Again, for informational purposes, you can count on a trash fee increase next year. Our contract is up come, I think, July 1st, and we're anticipating substantial increases in the cost of tipping fees moving forward. We don't know what that is yet. But again, as far as the motion that is before us, we're looking to close the gap by using the funds in this method here so we don't have to raise the fees at this particular time. And the other, one article here is the $9,800 that I explained earlier. There was a loss of grant funding through the federal and state monies, which we were not awarded $9,800. So that was after town meeting. We had anticipated that we were going to get the funding, and we did not. Select Board, Finance Committee, Finance Planning Team would like to, again, recommend that you allow us to transfer funds from another account, salary account that's already been appropriated, to this expense account to cover that $9,800 to allow a second day of lease space for the programming that the senior center is looking for. And finally, $30,000 for accounting salaries, from accounting to finance salaries, to fund the position of assistant finance director. The position of assistant finance director has been vacant since our current finance director vacated it to take over the job. At the time, again, we were looking at fiscal constraints and balancing the budget. She felt as though at that particular time we could get by that point in time, but we're at the point where we need to fill the position. We recently had another resignation within the finance office for a lower level position. We believe that it's critical that the assistant finance director's position be filled first. So we're looking to fill that now, and then at some point backfill the other position. So we're asking for your authorization to transfer the funding in order to finance this position today. We already have it in the budget funded for January 1st. So the budget you passed in June to fund this position. We did it for a half year in order to save some money and balance the budget. We believe it's critical to fill this one now and fill the other one later. So we need your authorization to do so. So if you have any questions on any of the specifics, I'd be happy to answer them.
Yes. Robert Atkinson Jr. Sorry
Ooh,
about that.
thank you for waking us up.
82 Elm Street. Why are we spending $50,000 on real estate brokers to sell the 9 Mill Street property? Why can't we auction it and then have the buyer pay all the fees associated with the sale?
We had a...
Mr. O'Leary.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Through you, we had already made an attempt to sell the property through the normal channels, and we had no bids. We believe that, and we're confident, that if we go through a somewhat normal process for a sale of single-family homes, we have a better chance of, first of all, generating interest, and secondly, generating some competition as far as the price on it. So we made an attempt to do it the way that we have to dispose of our own land, and it didn't work. It came up with no bids.
Well, I guess my question is, you say normal channels. What were those normal channels? Did you consider listing with an auction firm?
What we have to do is we have to advertise it in a central register. We have to post it for 30 days. And you wouldn't use a broker necessarily, use a broker to go through that process for disposal of town-owned land. Again, we tried that several months ago. It came up empty. It was determined by the board that it would be in the community's best interest to bring in a broker, get it listed in the multiple listing sections of the advertising world, the Zillows of the world, and get it out there. It gets far greater display that way than it does during the normal process that you would normally dispose of town-owned land.
Yeah.
So this is the most effective way to do it. We believe the return on the investment would be significant, and we're asking for $50,000. We do not believe that that's what the end of the fee would be. It would be actually less, but we just want to make sure we have our bases covered, and if there's another broker involved, we'll have enough funds to effectuate the transfer of the property.
So let me make sure I understand. You listed it for sale using, like you would, the town has a process, they have to list ads and so on. So essentially the town tried to sell it themselves, and now you're going directly to a broker. Why not an auction house like, J.J. Manning or somebody like that, and then have...
Okay, and we believe if we go through something like that, again, I haven't specifically looked at an auction house, but they also take a fee, and generally the fee would be in excess of probably 10% of the sale price. If you're talking anywhere from $650,000 to $700,000, you're talking in excess of the $50,000 amount. We're talking something substantially less.
Yeah, but usually in an auction, the buyer pays the fees, not the seller.
Okay.
So therefore, that fee would be paid by the buyer, not the seller, and we would net. So I guess I'm wondering if it's possible to investigate this in a little more detail, because it seems like an awful lot of money to spend $50,000 for a broker to list the property, when it seems to be an auction sale is more straightforward, particularly with certain issues regarding brokerage sales, where now you have to pay for a home inspection if there is a home on the property before the sale. So that's avoided with an auction sale. So I want to make sure we're getting full value for dollar regarding the sale of 9 Mill Street, and we're not leaving anything on the table. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Priscilla Fitzgerald, 5 Oak Street, North Reading. I am a realtor in town. You really don't need to do this. If you're putting this property on the market immediately after this meeting, why can't your fees come out of the sales price like everybody else? Why move money around? And it'll never be $50,000. I mean, that's a chunk. You'd have to be selling this property for quite a bit of money to have a commission of $50,000, and it will come off the top. So I don't understand why you're doing this. A house will sell in North Reading within a couple of weeks, and you close within 30 days. So why would you throw all this money around, and why not take everything from the proceeds of the sale? And if it's a North Reading broker, I'm sure we could arrange to make that commission itsy bitsy.
We have looked at the process that we must go through.
And also, could you speak up, because I'm really louder than you are, and I'm having a hard time hearing you.
Okay. We have gone through a significant amount of inquiries as to what we need to do.
You didn't call me. 51 years selling real estate in North Reading, and you didn't call me. Just saying.
Just say it's not as simple and straightforward process as you would think. Again, we have to still advertise this in a register for 30 days. We still have to go
You
through
did
a
that.
bunch of
You did that.
statutory requirements.
You did that, honey. You did it. You did it. I saw it in the paper just a little while ago. You did that.
Right.
Now it's time to get serious and give it to someone who can sell this foolish property and save the
I
town.
don't disagree with you, and that's exactly what we're doing.
Okay, then you don't need the 50,000, and I vote no.
And anyway, we do need to, people don't work for compensation for nothing. And the other thing is that we cannot necessarily pay the fee at the time of the closing as a normal transaction would be between you and I. Right? So other than that, we do need funding in order to pay a broker, in order to effectuate the sale.
Lorianne, you have the floor.
Legally, we cannot use the proceeds to pay the broker. We have to use the proceeds to pay down the ban. It's a DLS rule. We just simply cannot do that. And our rules for how we have to dispose of property are completely different than the average person. We have to go through the RFP process again, even though we already did it. So we can't just pick any realtor. We have to go out to bid for services.
Mr. Studo.
Also, correct me if I'm wrong, but we had 3 meetings on this and at least 4 hours of discussion. So I'm not sure why anybody's so shocked. Thank you.
Noel Kelly, 33 Leland Road. I believe last week during the informational hearing there was mention made of the fact that this 50,000 was negotiable, that there was a process where they were continuing to try to reduce that number. I would suggest anybody who has an interest in saving the town some money might come forward and offer their services at a reduced rate on this, with a sensible number that reflects the amount of work that may be involved in selling this property. But I don't think you mentioned in your presentation that this 50,000 is not a hard and fast number. Am I correct?
That is correct. It's not a hard and fast number. We don't anticipate having to spend the full amount.
Irene Yule. Is this on? Irene Yule, 427 Park Street. So maybe this might clarify a few things. So if we pay the 50,000 up front because of logistics and legal stuff, once we sell the home, though, will that 50,000 come back to our coffers?
First of all, we're not paying it up front. It's after the services are rendered. So it just as the finance director indicated, we can't pay it from the sale of the property directly. We have to do it indirectly. That's
Okay.
why we have to appropriate it separately. And again, whatever the fee is going to be, we anticipate it being substantially less than the 50,000, but we're asking for this, and whatever doesn't get spent here will go back into the stabilization fund.
Okay. But now let's say, no, we sell the house on Mill Street, right? What happens to the money from the sale of the house because we own it? Right? Where will it go?
Again, we'll be back at town meeting to transfer those funds back into the fund that paid off the debt, the stabilization. It'll go back into the water enterprise fund.
So we are going to get, we will get all of the sale of the house back.
Correct.
Right, thank you.
And it's not going to be generated into free cash. It will be put back into the water stabilization fund, enterprise stabilization fund, where it came from originally.
Okay, thanks.
Mr. Moderator.
Mr. Gilberto.
Thank you. Just to clarify, so we are asking to appropriate this funding so that we can pay off the borrowing that we have on the property and be free and clear of the debt with it. when we sell the property, the town will receive the payment. It'll be very similar to the receipt of a payment for the sale of town-owned land that we all know as the Pulte funds. That funding is then put in a sale of town-owned land account that is for the water enterprise, and it can be used for infrastructure and debt service through a vote at town meeting. So just to clarify, it doesn't go directly into a stabilization fund, but it is available to offset future costs for other capital projects for water.
Matthew Page, 1 Peabody Street. I'd like to call the question, please.
Move to the question. So I think we'll move to the question at this point. We'll do it. We can do it with a voice vote? No. No? Okay, we'll use the clickers. Well, we're voting on moving to the question.
Thank you, guys. Want to make sure I get that straight.
So if you could open it. Article 8, we're not voting on the article, we're voting to move to the question.
Should open, move, vote?
Open,
Yep. Making sure we're
move to the question.
very good. Open for move.
It's open for move to the question. So if you vote yes, then we'll take the vote on the question.
Couldn't hear you.
We'll close the voting.
Closing the vote.
Yeah, I know. Carries. This is a 2/3 requirement, but it's 161 yes, 16 no. So now we will vote on the main motion on the floor, which is to approve Article 8 as presented.
Open the vote.
So we will open the vote for Article 8.
Vote.
It's open. We'll close the voting. Yes, 158, no, 22. The motion carried, yes. Article 9, Mr. Massey.
Mr. Moderator, Article 9. I move to approve Article 9 as printed in the warrant and to set the limit for expenditures from the Veterans Services Revolving Fund at $50,000 as specified in Article 9 as printed in the warrant.
Recommendation for the Select Board.
Select Board recommends 4-0 with 1 member absent.
Finance Committee.
Finance Committee recommends.
Further discussion. Seeing no further discussion, I'll call for the vote. This is a Veteran Services Revolving Fund will be established. We'll close the vote. 174 yes, 4 no. Motion carries.
Mr. Moderator, I move to admit the following person to town meeting, Senator Bruce Tarr.
We have a motion to admit Senator Bruce Tarr. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Unanimous.
Senator, we were talking about
Nice
you
to see
earlier.
you.
Thank you for your efforts and your advocating for us and the work you do. Thank you.
Article 10, Mr. Studo.
Article 10, rescind authorization to borrow. I move to pass over Article 10 as printed in the warrant.
Recommendation for the Select Board.
Select Board unanimously recommends.
Finance Committee. Finance Committee recommends. Any further discussion? There's a motion to pass over. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Article 11, Mr. Studo.
Article 11, amend fiscal year 2026 capital budget. I move to amend the fiscal year 2026 capital expenditures approved under Article 18 of June 9, 2025, spring annual town meeting by making supplemental appropriation as follows. Appropriate $535,000 from free cash to roadway rehabilitation and reconstruction. Appropriate $500,000 from free cash to repair or reconstruction of Flint Memorial Library elevator, specified in Article 11 as printed in the warrant.
Recommendation for the Select Board.
Select Board unanimously recommends.
Finance Committee. Finance Committee recommends. Mr. Gilberto.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Moderator, to town meeting. There are two projects that we are proposing to fund from free cash that was certified as of June 30th, 2025. The first is $535,000 for street paving. If you recall from town meeting, we discussed that we projected a shortfall in paving funds for this current fiscal year. This funding would basically, when coupled with greater than anticipated state road construction funding, thank you, Senator, will allow us to pave Concord Street, which we hope to do during the month of October, as well as some additional areas around the town center wastewater project in the center of town, and in the future, adding sidewalks on a stretch of North Street between Main Street and Lowell Road. The second item is the Flint Memorial Library elevator project. This would be the rehabilitation of the existing elevator in the building. The amount is $500,000 from free cash. As you know, we have put a ramp in the front that only allows folks with access to the first floor that are not able to move within the building to gain access to the upper floors. This is a project that we expect will take about 6 months to get the elevator up online. As was referenced earlier, we appreciate the work of the library director and the staff to try to facilitate services to people who are not able to climb the stairs in the building. We were granted a waiver from the State Architectural Access Board to allow us to proceed with still offering services while we go forward with the repair, but we would ask for your approval of that project as well. Thank you.
Further discussion?
Mark Penny, 12 Irwin Road. Real quick, earlier in the evening, did I hear someone say it was the elevator and AC?
Through you, Mr. Moderator, both are
Mr. Gilberto, go ahead.
Both are projects that will be ongoing. Town meeting has already authorized funding for the repair and replacement of the air conditioning in the building. That was authorized, I believe, 2 years ago. It's actually been bid out and about to be awarded, so it's work that we expect to have completed for the next cooling season.
Okay, thanks.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, could we open the vote for Article 11? It's open. We'll close the vote. Yes, 180, no, 4. Motion carries. Article 12, Mr. Wallner.
Fiscal year 2026, fund town building repairs. I move to transfer from free cash the amount of $30,000 for the repair of town buildings.
Recommendation for the Select Board.
Select Board unanimously recommends.
Finance Committee.
Mr. Moderator.
Mr. Gilberto.
Thank you. Through you, this $30,000 would effectively replace funding that was previously authorized by town meeting for a variety of town building repairs. We were required to utilize that funding in order to the extent we could, try to expedite installation of the ramp. We had hoped that the ramp would be in place in the month of August. Unfortunately, it just got installed on Friday, as you all know. But this would allow us to make available the funds that we needed to utilize from prior town meeting votes to pay for that ramp, to then be used for the projects that they were originally intended, which are generally repair and improvement projects in the town's municipal buildings. And the funding source is free cash. Thank you.
Further discussion? Seeing none, I'll open the vote. We'll close the vote. 171 yes, 5 no. Carries. Article 13.
Mr. Moderator, move that Article 13 appropriate money for continued planning, design, permitting, and/or construction of modular replacements at the J. Turner Hood and E. Ethel Little Elementary Schools. I move to pass over Article 13 as printed in the warrant.
Could I have the recommendation from the Select Board, please?
Select Board unanimously recommends passing over, but awaits the presentation from the school committee.
Finance Committee, you want to wait too? Okay. Go ahead. You have the floor.
School committee recommends passing over as well.
Yep.
Okay, go to the next slide. Okay, the school committee just wanted to give a quick update on the modular projects for both the Hood and the Little School tonight. We are not going to be asking for any action to be taken tonight, but we felt it was important to brief the community on what's taken place since the last town meeting to keep you up to date as we approach our next town meeting. Go to the next chart. So for those of you that haven't seen the modulars around our two schools at the Hood and the Little School, you can think of them as prefabricated units. They're built to be done quickly and inexpensively to house students, right? They're both been built in 2001 and 2002, and here you see photos of the current state of the schools. Last summer, we walked with the select board, with our building department, walked through the modular units to assess them, and then that's when we commenced with the study. You can see here, there's some pretty extensive repairs that need to be made to these units, and the school committee and the school department need to act to make these repairs for our students. So why looking at the modular replacement? So first of all, as I said, there's no ask right now for town meeting. This is just informational only for you to be aware of what the school committee and the school department are looking to do. Right now, both units are well beyond their useful life. So they're both, believe it or not, 25 years old. They have been in place and utilized to the best of our ability. Currently at the Little School, we're not using them, but will be needed in the future as our enrollment increases at the Little School. They're currently used for special education and digital learning at the Hood School. Kindergarten students are currently housed in spaces that are not age appropriate, so the bathrooms and sinks are not age appropriate for the grade level that we have right now. And special education classes are held in spaces that are really not equitable as compared to our general education classrooms. Furthermore, we're incurring costs every year. We're heating these units, cooling these units, repairing these units every year. The school committee and school department feel it's in the best financial interest in the town to take the action on these units so that we're not needlessly spending money. And most importantly, the school committee and school department are aware that we have a lot of very high priority projects right now in town, and we want to make the best financial decision for the town while we pursue these very important projects like ones that we're going to see later tonight. Next slide. So just a little bit about the current state. If there's three things I want you to remember for tonight, they're all on this slide. And I know there's a lot on here, so these are going to be posted to our social media account. So social media plug, you can go on Facebook and see these later. But three things. One, our building department has done a great job maintaining these units over the years, right? We've extended their life, we've repaired them. I've seen firsthand what Sunny and the team have done with these units to make them as good as they can be. But unfortunately, they're no longer suitable for students. Right now, we do have the two unused units. They absolutely need to be replaced for the betterment of our students and for our faculty and staff that use them. And finally, and I think that's the most important point, we're looking at this because the school committee and school department have no current plans to build any new buildings in town right now. We want to maximize the space that we have, and we believe there's a lot of life left in the schools that we have today. So where we are now, we've submitted an application with the MSBA to further explore our options. And then quickly on the right, you can see that in general, MSBA is rating our schools very well. We're taking care of our schools. We feel it's very important and it's financially sound to take care of the schools that we have. And thanks to our school department and Dr. Daly and the team, they've done a great job of maintaining our schools. So we did look at three options: renovating the modulars, replacing the modulars, and putting a permanent structure. Option one, candidly, is off the table. We'd be looking at over $1 million to repair the modulars. It would be a Band-Aid, being perfectly candid. We'd be asking for over $1 million to just fix something that needs to be repaired anyways. So the school committee and school department are actively looking at two options right now. One is the outright in-kind replacement of modulars, so that would be going out and buying new prefabricated units and then replacing the existing units with new units. We're expecting that to be somewhere in the $4 to $5 million range by the time that we would start the project and you include escalation. The second option, option three that we're looking at, is looking at a permanent structure at the Hood School, and that's where MSBA gets involved. We don't know the current cost there. We're going to do our due diligence over the coming months in working with the MSBA, but in that scenario, we have an opportunity to share in the cost with MSBA and try to drive savings back to the town with reimbursable costs. So the school committee is very interested in exploring what options that we have there, again, in the spirit of financial interest, to try to get as much help as we can to replace and modify our schools as possible. Go to the next chart. So where are we in this step? So right now, so June 2024, that's when we first approved the study. We went out and we did that. That's what generated those three options, where basically those options were presented to school committee. Like I said, we're currently looking at option 2 and option 3, which is a replacement of the modulars and a permanent replacement. We did submit a letter of interest to the MSBA, and here we are today telling you about that. So right now, we're in a state where the MSBA is reviewing our application. If we're invited into the MSBA program, which we would find out in December, then in January of next year, we would start actively looking at our MSBA deliverables. We would be further updating the public, and then the school committee ultimately will make a recommendation back at town meeting regarding looking at what is a more financially sound option for this town, replacing the modulars or looking at a permanent structure. And a lot of that will be indicative of basically how much reimbursement we think we could get from the MSBA if we were invited into the program. So that's all we had, and thank you for listening to the school committee, and we'll be back in June with more updates.
I'll now call to open the vote for Article 13. The motion is to pass over. I'll close the vote. $179 yes, 3 no. Motion carries. Article 14, Mr. Wallner.
Appropriate funds for Martins Pond maintenance and treatment. I move to appropriate from free cash the sum of $15,000 for the purpose of funding an invasive weed treatment program, including herbicide monitoring and costs related thereto as specified in Article 14 as printed in the warrant.
Recommendation from the Select Board.
Recommended.
Finance Committee. Further discussion?
Just briefly, we've been treating the pond very well over the last decade or so. Martins Pond Committee's been doing a great job. We had slow growth this year, but we also found some milfoil in the center of the pond. We're not going to do anything about it right now, but come early spring, I think the plan might be to treat at that point. So the goal is to have $15,000 available for us so we can take action in early spring and not wait for town meeting in June.
Further discussion? Seeing none, I'll open the vote for Article 14 to appropriate the funds. Open. I'll close the vote. 161 yes, 14 no. Carries. Article 15, Mr. Studo.
Appropriate funds for substance abuse treatment, mitigation, and prevention. I move to amend Article 15 of October 2023 town meeting, appropriate money for the substance abuse treatment, mitigation, prevention by transferring the sum of $12,500 from the Opiate Stabilization Fund to further fund substance abuse, mitigation, and prevention as specified in Article 15 as printed in the warrant.
Recommendation for the Select Board.
4-0, 1 member absent.
Finance Committee.
Finance Committee recommends.
Further discussion? Mr. Gilberto.
Through you, Mr. Moderator, this would be funding that the town has received as part of a class action type opioid litigation settlement that would be utilized for continued substance abuse mitigation and prevention programming. Generally, it's operated out of the police department through the community impact team and or the Youth Substance Abuse Coalition.
Further discussion? Seeing none, I'll open the vote for Article 15. I'll close the vote. Yes, 166. No, 8. Motion carries. Article 16. Ms. Moran.
Article 16, appropriate funds for continued facilities planning. I move to table Article 16 until after consideration of Article 17.
So we're going to table Article 16, and it'll come back for vote after Article 17. Everybody with me? Okay. Can we do this with a voice vote? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Unanimous?
Article 17, appropriate funds to evaluate and or procure leased space for elder services / senior center. I move to appropriate from free cash the amount of $30,000 to assist in evaluating and procuring rented space for the Department of Elder Services and or senior center, as specified in Article 17 as printed in the warrant.
Recommendation for the Select Board.
The Select Board recommends.
Finance Committee.
By a vote of 5 to 2, the Finance Committee does not recommend. If I could just briefly explain why we discussed it in the committee. In short, we looking at different options. I think there's going to be a presentation coming up. We do not believe that there is any outcome from the usage of these funds that will result in a solution that's economically viable for the town. There's a couple of reasons for that. Any sort of long-term lease solution would be required to be funded entirely out of our operating budget. We wouldn't be able to bond to sustain that expense. We would be able to use sale of town land funds or infrastructure funds. We all have to come out of our operating expenses. And so because of that, given that Article 16 is also on the docket, it would be our recommendation to put our focus on 16. Do not move forward with pursuing any funds to research the long-term lease option for this path, so we voted against.
Mr. Gilberto.
Through you, Mr. Moderator, I would respectfully request a 10-minute leave of the meeting to go through some slides that pertain to both Article 17 and Article 16 with regard to both matters.
Mr. Gilberto has asked for a 10-minute leave of the meeting for purposes of a presentation. Can I do it with a voice vote? All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Mr. Gilberto, you have 10 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Again, Article 16 would appropriate $150,000 to continue planning for a custom design new intergenerational community or senior center that would relocate the offices and programs all in one spot, not one sport, serving the whole community or seniors only, depending upon the outcome of the planning effort. Article 17 would be $30,000 that would support the development and issuance of a request for proposals to rent available privately owned space to relocate those services. Again, we all thought that town meeting may wish to consider 17 prior to 16. Next slide, please. The senior center space needs are growing. We have a growing and increasing population of residents aged 60 plus. Thanks to community identified solutions, we've been able to use multiple spots here in town. I won't read from every item that's on there, but the desire is to have the programs and staff move to a single dedicated location that would have multiple rooms rather than the single room that we have available right now in the senior center. And that includes the different programs that are offered, more appropriate access, air conditioning, doors that would separate spaces as needed, improved parking space as well, and less time spent driving between locations. Next slide, please. That's just a picture showing the third meeting house that many of you know. Again, you see the single room that's there. Down the bottom, you'll see the many activities that we use, including lunches could be greater than 60 people. 24 parking spaces in a tough spot at the top of a hill. And then again, you see the staffing that's been approved by town meeting, and an increased number over the past few years as needs have increased. There's no lounge or waiting area as well, so you sort of walk right into the programming. Next slide, please. Just shows some of the creativity we've tried to put in place using the town hall gym, which is not air conditioned, for exercise classes. It does have a new surface on it. You see there a rubberized mat. It's about 2,600 square feet. Next slide, please. The Masonic Lodge, which made itself available for up to 3 days a week for programming. You see an ongoing program that was taking place in there. Next slide, please. The main room of Aldersgate, where we've had a number of community-based events for seniors, including lunches and other programming. Again, there's no air conditioning in this facility, so it's not usable for us between the months of May and I believe September. Next slide, please. The lounge, a smaller area that's also in Aldersgate Church for private meetings, etc. Next slide. And this just shows, based on the sizes of the currently used spaces, when combined with offices and other spots that we use for providing services to seniors, we get to around 15,000 square feet in terms of our needs for seniors. Next slide. So one possible concept for an intergenerational facility plan was initially conceived as a community center in, I believe, 2013 and updated in 2018. Recognize that there's going to be a lot that you're going to see in terms of options that are on the screens here, but these are simply alternatives that have been looked at over the past 10 to 15 years. This would be a 33,000 square foot building, as an example. Next slide, please. Our facilities master plan report, the report was reviewed at the select board meeting in September. One possible option is a large intergenerational center that would service seniors, youth, veterans, recreation with 31,000 square feet. Again, one possible scenario that we're looking at here. There were various iterations that were smaller than that as an alternative. If we go to the next slide, please. An additional option would be a senior center only footprint of just over 13,000 square feet. Some folks have pointed us to look at the town of Wilmington, which recently opened a new senior center the past year, as one potential example. And again, this is one possible option. Next slide. So rent, build, or both is what we entitled this slide. I don't want to read every word that's on here, but it tries to outline some of the different factors and considerations as we talk about two potential options, whether we're committed to looking to try to build something, whatever that might be. We have some really good information from our facilities master plan report, but we do know that we have yet to identify a final location where a building would be constructed. So we'd have to find that in either town-owned land or acquire land. It could be subsidized with the use of available resources such as proceeds from the sale of town-owned land or the Ponte funds or capital infrastructure stabilization funds. To the extent those funds couldn't cover the whole cost, a debt exclusion would be required. Renting space would require an upfit of existing space, and the cost may only make sense if we're able to amortize that cost over a long period of time. So if it's a significant investment, we only have a 3 or 5 year lease. It may be overly expensive compared to amortizing it over 5, 6, 7, even 10 years. This anticipated high cost of rent payments would likely require either cuts in services or a tax increase to fund it. Next slide, please. So there's a lot on this slide. I'm going to let folks just take a look at it. Hopefully some of the wording comes through. But it tries to summarize what the options might be for either renting or for construction of either a senior center or an intergenerational center. Could I just see the next slide for 1 second? All right, just scroll back, please. So what we're asking for in Article 17 would be funding to help us go through a procurement process and identify space that could be rented for a term of time. Thinking that that term would be 5 to 10 years, but it's possible that it could be less than that. To be clear, we don't have a funding source to pay for the rental of such a property right now, so we would need to either look to make reductions in current services or to look for an increase in taxes in order to fund that type of rental. For construction, it could be one of the various iterations that were shown on the screen between 10 and 30,000 square feet. And depending upon the size and whether or not it's elected that we subsidize construction with available funds, that would also likely result in a tax increase. When we look at those options, one thing we know is we aren't able to pay for rent with the sale of town-owned land, so that's maybe one of the considerations to think about. But we are able to pay for capital improvements. That $30,000, again, is only to assist with the process in case we need to talk to engineers, designers, other consultants as we look at our different options. The full cost for rent, should we go in that direction, would need to be brought to town meeting for approval, potentially contingent on an override. I know we're throwing a lot at town meeting, and this has all happened fairly fast as the facilities master plan report has come out. Hopefully some of you have been able to see it on the town's website or watch the select board's meeting. To summarize, Article 16 would ask for $150,000 to continue our planning efforts to construct either an intergenerational or a senior center here in town. Article 17 would fund $30,000 to assist with a process to go out to bid and find available spaces for rent for a shorter term. And that concludes the presentation. Thank you.
Mr. Studo.
So a couple things when it comes to this. Well, first, please allow me to retort to the distinguished Finance Committee. I do understand what they're saying, and it does make sense. However, this could not be, especially the second, if we were to actually build the senior center in the 15 million range, it could not be under the current tax levy. So let's not get it twisted. We would need to increase taxes. There's no way around it. So we just don't have that money. Now, I think it's important enough that we should, but that's just my opinion. But let's just say that, because the first thing is going to be that we have all this money, but it's just not that simple. And once again, we gave a pretty good description of exactly what we were talking about at the informational hearing, which I was definitely at till midnight with a bunch of other people. So just first there. So based on that, what I'd like to say is that if we did have that increase, the numbers look different. And also, the argument's going to get made that we have other things like the fire station, but again, when we went through the sewer exercise, which is dead, we went to bond council. They made it very clear we could have borrowed all the way to the 135 million if we wanted to. So I just want to say that yes, under the current tax levy, it wouldn't work, but this can't happen under the current tax levy. But more importantly, so I've only been on the board, this is my 6th year. And the first couple of years during COVID, not much going on. But the last couple of years we heard about that seniors need this, and I agree with that. This is the first step. 150,000 might seem like a lot, it's actually not. Anyone who's designed anything, it's roughly about 10%. Go design a shed that's $20,000, you're gonna pay a couple thousand. It's pretty standard, okay? And no, I'm not a contractor, so I'm not trying to grab any business, sorry. But what I will say, though, is that this is an opportunity for the board and for the community to see if we're serious about this. What I've learned talking to people that have been here a lot longer than me in this town is that we've come very close to this process, and then all of a sudden, everybody turns into T-Rex when we start talking about the money. They come and complain for 6 months, and then when it comes to vote for money, no one wants to pay. So the reason I say it's also important is there's other priorities that are in the back burner, because this is pretty much 1A and 1B with the fire station. We also need a town hall. I know. I mean, I'm just saying, a grammar school, to a certain point. I get it. So, but we need to know, the community needs to know, do we want to fund this? This is step one. If we can't even do this, then there's no way we're going to get an approval for a $15 million override. Yes, I'm saying it because that's what it's going to require, okay? There's no way around it. Anybody who says otherwise is lying to you. So, I want to just make it clear though also, again, opportunity, because we have so many things to try to solve. If this fails tonight, please do not come in 2 weeks to our meeting and say we didn't try. Because you can't have it both ways. We started talking about this about a couple months ago, actually longer, August, like it's been a while, and we said, hey, we need this space. The lease space, maybe it's a hybrid approach. The lease space would be in between, right? Because you can't get this built in in 6 months. It's going to take a while. But again, that's why I think it's worth taking a shot to know what it looks like so the community knows. So it's not a what if, it's that, a group of people is put together. This is the process we have to go through. I've learned that in the public sector, you got to do it like this. It is what it is. So sorry, I didn't make the rules. We just have to play by them. So I think we should vote for this. I think it's important to the community. I've heard from enough people that this is what we want, but this is the first step. So if the first step is not approved, talking about step 2, 3, and 4, just for the sake of talking, it's just not going to make sense, because in reality, we have so many different things besides the fire station and the senior center that we need to fix, that this hanging over of what if we just show the people what it will cost, they'll buy it, for lack of a better word, And also, this is, as people probably notice, I'm going to be in town. Maybe if we build this, I'll get to use it in 20 years, but this will not benefit me at first, unless it's an intergenerational center and maybe, I take some of my kids. So there's no motivation. It's just that we've heard it enough. We made it a priority. We started the process last year. We got to it now. Sorry so much is right in front of us, but this did just come out a while ago, 2 weeks ago, the report? Somebody correct me, 2 weeks ago. But we felt it was that important that it couldn't wait till the June town meeting to talk about. So I just say that if you're serious about seeing the cost of what it would of what a community center would cost to build, this is step one. Because unfortunately, I feel like there's a chance this doesn't happen tonight, and then in 2 weeks, people are going to want to talk about step 2, and at that point, I just can't take it seriously. Thank you.
Mr. Atkinson, 82 Elm Street. This kind of begs the question, one of the unknowns, and I'm not saying I'm for or against this, I'm just asking a question. One of the issues, the unknowns, is the cost of securing land. Not half an hour ago, we voted $50,000 to pay for a broker to sell town-owned land where we could conceivably put a senior/intergenerational center. So we're going to sell land, and then we're going to have to pay to buy land to build this thing. So it seems like maybe we ought to back this truck up a bit and maybe not sell the land right now until we decide maybe we have a use for it. I don't know. Call me crazy, call me irresponsible, but that seems like to sell it and then turn around and have to buy land for this future project if we go forward. With that being said, I think it's important we ought to study the problem and come up with some, courses of action. Whether we rent space, whether we build this, whether we make it intergenerational or just a senior center, it's worth studying. Again, I agree, $150,000 in the great scheme of life, at least in government circles, is not a lot of money. But with that being said, it seems like we're shooting ourselves in the foot by selling land that we already own that could be used for this. So if somebody could speak to that, I'd appreciate it. Thank you.
Mr. Gilberto.
Thank you. Appreciate the question, and it certainly is reasonable to ask. Have we considered 9 Mill Street? I think the geographic location on the far end of town is one that makes it maybe not ideal. I also don't believe the site is going to be found to be large enough to site the type of building we're talking about between the building itself and the parking that we need. The lot at 9 Mill Street is a large lot, but it is complicated by some wetlands that it has on it, as well as some utility easements that can't be built on. So I don't think that Mill Street would be the property we would look to for constructing this.
Okay, well, I guess maybe it's not optimal, but sometimes the best is the enemy of good enough. So that's all I'm saying. Maybe we ought to, okay, maybe it's not ideal, but given the choice between selling it and then having to procure land at a higher price later, because the price of land never goes down, seems to me we ought to at least make that part of the study. Let's put it that way. If we're going to appropriate $150,000 to study the issue, make that part of the study. And then before we go off and shoot ourselves in the foot and sell it, and then we have no option, we have no recourse, then we absolutely have to procure land as part of the process if we go forward. That's all I'm saying. I mean, again, it sounds like we're putting the cart before the horse. We're trying to sell something that we may need, and then we're gonna pay later when we have to buy it back somewhere else in order to do this. Thank you.
Gail Manning, 130 Central Street. I think it's a little disingenuous to throw out that it's going to mean an increase in taxes when, we have probably in June a Proposition 2.5 override vote coming up to raise taxes for the schools.
We do? I missed that one.
Mr. Gilberto.
Through you, Mr. Moderator, certainly not looking to be disingenuous with folks, but do want to be upfront that based on what we anticipate would be a somewhat substantial rent expense to rent the space we're talking about, we are concerned about our ability to fit that within the existing operating budget. Every year that I've been here in front of you, we've talked about trying to balance the budget by making reductions. I think that we look to see the reductions that have been made in the municipal and school budgets, and that there really isn't space there to make reductions that the community would tolerate to fund this. And so that's why I think, in fairness, we needed to identify both. It would either need to be further cuts or a tax increase.
Rita Mullen, 29 Abbott Road, North Reading. I'd like to explain that I have been on this past group that had helped look through the presentations they had done earlier about what was done. A committee is going to be presented that will go over all the items that they spoke about. There's the $150,000 does not have to be spent today. The first thing that would happen after this meeting would be have the group of people that had looked at it that represent most of the social groups, recreation, parks, the seniors, the veterans, and the youth services. And there'd be kind of an exit interview from those of us that were on the other committee, from the social service teams, to meet, discuss what we felt we liked, didn't like about the last plan, how we could change it or tweak it. I think the TA was very fair, and the select people to put up what all the items would possibly cost. What I want to suggest to everybody is the new committee will sit down in a short time frame, go over everything, look into the properties that we've talked about, that we've been talking about for 10 years. As a member of LUC and Recreation, we started talking about this 30 years ago. We stopped because every school that was built and didn't do it at the time, and we did the right thing and said, let's let the schools and everybody else do it. We've waited. 12 years ago, 13 years ago, the land utilization, which had done all kinds of fundraisers, not bake sales, bigger things that we did to raise 10,000 here, 10,000 there. It was the LUC first that put up $10,000 to hire a company that came in to do it. At that time, 12 years ago, for $10,000, they worked with us because they enjoy the people they worked with the town and wanted to be fair and give us a break to look at everything. They came back and for $10,000 looked at a piece of property we had in town and said it would probably cost about $8.6 million at that time. Not talking about, not removing the barn that was on the property, but at that time it wasn't a big deal. And not including parking. So 12 years ago, 8.6 for at that time, what they designed, 33,000 square feet building, would have taken care of the seniors and all the other committees that we talked about. Today, those numbers, by some of the costs that they got, may have been in the 30 million range. The committee has not looked at it and decided anything. What we have looked at is over 6 pieces of property in the town and the old job lots that we looked at. We got prices on things, we've been looking at it and studying a lot. Now it's the time to sit down, do the business, look up what we feel, 1 or 2 sites that could be available, spend some money of that 150,000 if we need it during that time, or not spend anything and just come back with a recommendation. The committee would be formed after this. They would like to have an exit interview from the group that did it, make a presentation to the TA at that point on things that we think could be tweaked or whatever, and they'd sit down and have a committee appointed, as we did for the Ipswich River Park years ago, as we did for the turf field. All the time we did it without using finance members, selectmen's members, so we weren't stretching them so thin. It gave them a chance to do their job, and it gave the chance of this committee to make some recommendations. If you do not do it now, I'd like everybody to be able to, we can vote anything down, but then to look at the group of seniors that come forward, look at all the information that we have received from our senior service director that has put a lot of the information together.
I just lost you.
You want me to speak louder, or somebody wants to help me here?
Come on over. Come on this way, Rita.
Oh, Rita.
It would be a disaster for both of us.
Thank you. Of course, at my age, I forgot where I was, but Lillian put a lot of the information together that we had before, but it was from information from 2 prior things. If we are not going to do it, we can't just say we're not going to do it. We have to look at the seniors and look at everything that Kim Manzelli and the senior team have done in the past 2 years to take care of triple, quadruple people, and I could let Kim speak to it, but more programs. But besides just more programs, looking at it as yoga or this or that, the different things they do, look at the amount of families that they have helped, how those numbers have gone up, the transportation, taking people to doctors and hospital visits, getting funds from every other access there is, and understand this. When we built Ipswich River Park 30 years ago, we wrote a grant for $1 million on a $2-point-something million property. Do not think for 1 minute that the group's going to be put together is not going to look at every single grant by historical committees, by senior people, by recreation, to try to put as many numbers together. We're not just going to walk back into this group and ask for 40 million, 30 million, 20 million. We do not know yet. We're saying give us the opportunity to do it. They're asking for rent because at some point that building, you know that it was closed for, I don't know how long it was, almost a year around COVID in that time. There were defects in the building that we couldn't take care of. There is no money to fix up that building to make it for what they need and the amount of programs that they give back to the community. God forbid any one of us in this room has a fire in their house, has something happen that you're on your last paycheck and can't pay for things. The people that help, the senior center people that have ask the people that had the fire in town, they've placed 3 families in housing immediately because they took action on it. There are very few towns that do that and do what we do. So please don't look at it while we're cutting out yoga or something like that. We're cutting out things that help the seniors and have helped them with everything else. We're asking you to ask for the $300,000. If it is not used in the amount of time that the committee comes back with something, the town gets, the money would be refunded in the town, or we would use it to look up other lands that may be used for other properties in town. We could not use the Mill Street property because just what they said before, access in and out is horrible. It's on the center of town that can't put in what a senior center would be. So we're looking at intergenerational center, or we could come up with the idea of senior center, whoever becomes members of this committee. Thank you very much.
Maria Damiano, 8 Eisenhower Lane. I clearly don't need to repeat some of the very strong arguments that have been made. What the senior center accomplishes is tremendous on a regular basis. my comments this evening, I'd like to focus on something very practical. For our purposes this evening, we're looking at the two articles. I hoped Article 16 would be considered first. It's not to fund the senior center, but to look at what it would take, what is the best plan, what's the feasibility. That's an important consideration, and we should, I'm not going to argue for it, but that is the most important question. But we agreed to consider Article 17 first. And I would say, based on the comments I heard from the Finance Committee, these are two very separate items, two very separate articles. My concern is that folks are going to think that we have to vote for one or the other. It's not a choice. Article 16 should be considered. My feeling is it should be approved. Article 17, and Article 16 is hopefully getting us to a long-term solution. Article 17 considers, what do we do in the meantime? We can't wait years to support our seniors. I certainly hope that you're around to appreciate the benefits of what can be done in the future. And I hope I am as well. I'm a bit grayer than you are, but I hope I am as well. But what happens in the meantime? As our previous speaker said, there's so much good work that's done in emergency situations, in routine day-to-day situations. The work done by the Senior Center, I'm beyond impressed with what I have seen is accomplished. So what do we do in the meantime? Article 17 should be considered for very separate reasons than Article 16. And I hope, I sincerely hope, that you consider each individually. How do we get to a long-term solution? Let's think seriously about that. Multiple options. Someone needs to look at it carefully. But what do we do in the meantime? We can't shut down the services of the Senior Center while this other work, funding, etc., takes place. So please consider each article separately.
Mr. Yule.
Jeff Yule, 427 Park Street. I've been up here so long, I think I forgot my question. I applaud everybody before me. It appears that this is something that we really need to get things going and move forward on the senior center or the center for both the youth and the seniors. I just want to tell, Robert made an inquiry about the property we have on Mill Street. I was on the board when that whole process went into place, and it was a very strategic move by the town in order to be prepared for a what-if scenario. As I think it was previously said, the location is not appropriate, okay? And I think, and Steve might be able to clarify this on me, we paid $740? $700. Okay. We stand to make some money on the sale of this, I presume? Hopefully. What do you mean? I mean, real estate properties have gone high, so I would like to think that 740 is worth about, $950 or something like that right now. I would hope.
Mr. Gilberto.
Through you, our hope is that by selling the property with the assistance of a broker, we can maximize the return on it, yes.
Okay. Well, I hope so, because that's very important. I don't know if there's any limitations, because we're a municipality, you buy it for this price, you have to sell it for that price. I don't know if that's the case or not, but so we stand to make money on it if Mr. Gilberto's answer is 100% correct. We do make money on it.
Mr. Moderator.
Mr. Gilberto.
I'm advised I may have given a pretty good non-answer to your question. So the property is assessed at about $680,000. I'm looking to the assessor right now. That's assessed. value based upon its current condition. Again, with a realtor involved, our real estate broker involved, our hope is to maximize a resale price beyond that amount.
So, through you, Mr. Moderator, so it doesn't sound like we're going to make much money on this, I guess.
That's certainly a possible outcome, but we hope with the assistance of a real estate broker, we can try to increase that number as much as possible.
Okay. Thank you.
Kim Carpentier, 200 Martin's Landing. I just wanted to clarify that 17 is for $30,000 to investigate rental facilities, correct? Short-term fix.
Correct.
More or less. And 16 is for all buildings. It's for the continued facilities planning. And it says in the warrant that, but not limited to, intergenerational center. So I just wanted everybody, I mean, I'm for this because I got gray hair, but I want to be clear that it's for everything, all the buildings, and for the planning of the facilities, correct?
Mr. Moderator, through you.
Yes.
While the article in the warrant was written broadly to allow a motion to come forth on any of the buildings that you mentioned, this motion is intended to limit the planning at this point to either an intergenerational center or a senior center. I say that keeping in mind that town meeting approved in June funding for continued work for the fire station as well. So we do have that funding already authorized separately.
But I'm just saying, that's not the way it's written.
It was purposely written broadly to allow the select board to complete their evaluation of the master plan, which happened over the past few weeks, and to offer a motion on whichever project or projects that were appropriate.
That's fine, I understand that, but it's not just for the intergenerational and for the seniors, because it's open to doing other things with the money, correct?
The article could allow an appropriation that would be more general, but this motion, as it will be offered, will be limited to the intergenerational center / the senior center.
So all that money that goes to this planning is going to the senior center, intergenerational center?
That's correct, that's the intention.
Okay. Thank you.
Good evening. Jim Gannon, 9 Duane Drive, sorry. I was also at that informational session there till midnight, and as I remember, we moved 17, we flipped them mainly because we thought they may be confusing. Well, guess what? So, as I will not yell. So, as I understand it, when we talked about the $30,000, it was up to $30,000 to solve a short-term problem, and that is trying to put the senior center into one location. There was also a discussion that there was a possibility that the number would be a lot less. And I'll pause there because that's the way I understood it. Second of all, the $150,000 was to, on 16, I don't remember anymore. 16 was to continue planning and making a long-term decision about building, whether it's going to be a senior center or intergenerational center. I came away from the information session in supporting both. I still do, and I hope we get to the vote shortly. Thank you.
Mr. Moderator. Just
Mr.
something
Gilberto.
Just would like to clarify. It would probably be a lot easier if we had one article for one pot of money to look at the future, short and long term, for the senior center. As we mentioned earlier, this happened fairly quickly after we received a report from the Facilities Master Plan Committee. That's why it came to you in 2 articles. The funding is intended to support planning efforts for both projects. It's not that planning couldn't happen without the appropriations, but I think it would be a lot less effective, and so therefore the Select Board's recommending both articles.
Ellen Trance for Winterberry. I just want to be clear though, Article 17 is to take money, but with no plan for how to sustain a lease. And so this shouldn't be a proxy conversation about supporting generations. We should do that and support that. And I'm in favor of Article 16. But Article 17 does nothing but take money to study an issue with no plan and no budget for how to sustain a lease. We should save that money and put it toward the planning for a true intergenerational center.
Mr. Moderator. Mr. Moderator.
Mark Penny, 12 Owen Road. A couple years ago, if I remember correctly, didn't we okay to secure Ipswich River Park, that piece of land down there? And the reason I mention that, also last summer, we voted to, I don't know, take the Hillview Country Club down, right? So the selectmen seem to be kind of evasive, not very clear. Does the town have the additional land? Because you keep talking about, oh, we got to go buy land, and that's going to be such an expense. But everybody knows, damn it, land is the biggest expense of anything you do to start with. So, again, between the land that the town already owns, can I get the selectmen to say we have land that could possibly do the trick?
Mr. Moderator.
Mr. O'Leary.
We have land that could house such a facility. However, the land that we own, some of the land that we own, if you talk about Ipswich River Park or you talk about Rita Mullen Fields, those lands have certain restrictions on them that have a significant amount of hurdles to get over in order to use them for this type of purpose. All right, so it's not a slam dunk. We have land behind Town Hall. The Town Hall site is about 9 acres. Topography is tough. Potentially, could something be done there, depending upon the size and scope of the project? Maybe. Is that the best suited place to locate something like that? So, yes, we have land, but not necessarily land easily accessible for this purpose.
So excuse me, about 2 years ago, there was all this talk about, we should move to acquire that additional land that was available at Ipswich River Park. Now, how much land was that now? I can't.
About a half an acre.
Just a hick?
Half acre lot. It's a half acre lot.
Okay, and then we own the.
We own.
Then we own the additional parking lot and all that stuff.
We own all of that, and again, that's under Chapter 97 land, which is different, which is
okay.
Open space. In order to utilize that land, we have to find another suitable location of land, either purchase or some other town of land, other auspices, to swap for that land. We have to go to the legislature for special legislation in order to get permission from the state to take it out of Chapter 97 in order to use it for another intent other than.
Well, I have a lot of faith in Bruce, so. Okay, but I just want to, my main thing is, I get the impression you start off by saying, we need to go off and buy land, but just, we have land, that'll come under that $150,000 discussion as to.
What will come out is, do we have a suitable parcel of land that we already own to utilize for this purpose, depending upon what the final design is going to be sited somewhere? Yes or no?
And
it'll be yes or no.
Right, and then we have off of Swan Pond, don't we still own, the school department still owns land up there?
And again, the school department would then have to determine that that's surplus land, turn it over to the town for general government purposes.
Or at least some of the land, not.
Whatever, so
right.
Again, all sorts of steps, so yes.
Okay.
We do have.
All right, I'm just saying, there are people here who haven't lived in town long enough to realize that there is possibility of land out there, and we may not have to go and purchase it. That's all I'm trying to say.
That's true.
And that ultimately would be a big savings to this project down the road.
Right.
That's all.
Thank you. Yep. Mr. Moderator, if I might just adjust the two articles that are before us, 17 and 16. I just want to reiterate what Mrs. Damiano pointed out to the public here and to the voters. Article 17, we have an immediate problem in relation to housing the programming for the senior center under one roof. Right now it's being done in a scattered approach in multiple locations. So we have an immediate problem that the board felt important enough to address this evening. That's what Article 17 is. Do we want to look at and find out exactly what's available in the community for leasing purposes, whether it be for short-term, interim, or long-term. Again, that'll be determined by town meeting here, and Article 16 will help determine whether it's gonna be a long-term solution, which is gonna be a new facility. If not, we still have the problem. And we're not gonna get into a new building. If we start tonight, we won't be in there for 5 years. We still have a 5-year situation that needs to be addressed, and we want to address. And this is what we're looking for, some guidance here. Do you want us to move forward to help solve a short-term problem, a chronic problem right now that needs to be addressed? Whether it's a short, interim, or long-term will be determined how we move forward on Article 16. And that's when we were talking the other night at our public hearing. People thought, let's get the leasing rental issue determined first, and then we'll determine about the permanent structure second. So again, Article 17, do we want to move forward today, this year, to address the concerns of programming under one roof with the senior center, or not? So that's Article 17. How are we going to do it? So give us some money to use brokerage firms to analyze what the marketplace is out there, what's available in the town of North Reading, to house sufficient space to put the programming under one roof. So that's one issue we need to solve anyway, or we want to solve. Again, if we don't get permission to do it, then status quo is what we're going to be dealing with, and we're going to do the best we can with what we have. So Article 17, you want us to take a look at what can we do to solve the problem now that we're dealing with. Article 16 is longer-term solution and moving forward. Article 17 is going to be expensive. You're talking about, to the Finance Committee's credit, you're $500,000–$600,000 a year to lease space probably that's just gone, that we could be using for debt service, for a new building. But are we willing to wait, and can we wait 5 years under the current situation not to address it? This is what we're wrestling with. So we brought it forward, we're having the discussion. How would you like us to proceed? We're recommending moving forward. Now, can we afford $500,000, $600,000 a year plus a leasehold build-out for a short-term rental within our existing operating budget? The answer is no. We can't. We don't have $500,000, $600,000. We're going to say, what are we going to cut? And some are going to say, cut the schools. Well, cut schools because they have 2/3 of the budget. That's irresponsible. Schools are already cutting things now. They're cutting their programming now. And that doesn't solve the problem. It just digs a deeper hole for our educational system that is remarkably good. So if we're going to move forward with this, and again, let us get the answers to find out what the real numbers are, you're going to be asked for an override to fund it for a short period of time, if it's a short period solution. Because that's the responsible way to handle it. But if you want us to maintain status quo and tell our seniors, hold tight for the next 4 or 5 years until we can get a new building built, and we're going to go out here and advocate for that, and tell them that. But we want to be straight out with you. It's a major expense to put it all under one roof. It's something that we think needs to be addressed. But it's entirely up to you whether we get the okay to move forward or not. So Article 17, we're asking for $30,000 to get the answers to that question. So in June, you're going to know what the cost is going to be, and then you make a determination. Article 16 is, let's move forward with some plans for something new. So we've recommended both.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Katie Gabriello, 13 Damon Street. Thank you, Mr. O'Leary. That was a very nice seg in terms of the competing priorities the town has and the limited amount of funds that we have. One thing that has not come up very much tonight is our excellent school system, which, as you mentioned, has been decimated through cuts over the last 2 years. I think we're at maybe 25 positions across the board that just don't exist anymore in our wonderful public school system. I think I saw on Facebook or something the other day that our 5th grade MCAS scores in science were top in the state amongst the whole Commonwealth, which certainly is something to be very proud of, and I don't think it's something that we can expect to continue to be proud of if we continue to make these significant cuts at the school level. And I just wanted to stand up and say that for the children who are, I have 3 children of my own who are in public schools. We know that they are adept at doing a lot with little as it continues on. And I just wanted to share with everyone that on October 27th, the school committee will have a meeting where they will have a budget update. Mr. Conley will probably deliver one of his mostly very depressing slides, but will show kind of what we're looking at. So I just wanted to remind everyone of that.
All right.
Thank you.
I didn't want to cut her off, but we're talking about 17, okay? We're talking about Article 17.
Pat Fillmore, 24 Fieldcrest Terrace. Is it working? We appreciate the school. I raised my kids in this system, I worked in this system, and I raised my grandchildren. It's got nothing to do with the school system right now. What we're talking about is the people that for all these years have supported their schools, have sent their kids to school. They have no place. We're renting space to carry on programs. We're putting our staff, or their staff, the senior staff, in different locations so we don't have anybody in one of those buildings at some period of time. We have to support these people. They have done a lot for this town. They have done a lot for me and my family. We need something for them. Yes, it's just a temporary thing. And yes, we do want an intergenerational where the seniors can work with the kids also. And we've done that over the years. But right now, we need a space that can hold everybody together with our staff together, working together.
Nancy Wolf, 4 Sandsborough Lane. Mr. Moderator, through you, I'd like to ask Mr. Gilberto, would you entertain a motion to combine 16 and 17 if we were to amend the motion so that we would put both of them together and to move this forward?
So through you, Mr. Moderator, so that would be a determination that the moderator would need to make. I think the articles contemplate 2 different things, and again, as I explained earlier, if we had the benefit of some more time and more discussion, perhaps they would have been one motion, one article, but I'd have to defer to the moderator on that.
Okay.
I would suggest as we move towards votes, we can't.
No, that's fine.
Consider it a 2-part vote on the same.
I figured if it got us to yes faster, I would say that. So
Well,
please.
They're 2 different things, so I can't let them be combined.
No, that's fine.
If you want to vote yes on both, you can vote yes on both.
No, wonderful. I just figured I'd ask if you wanted to combine the 2 and move it forward. Thank you.
Mr. Yule.
Thank you, Jeff Yule. Move to the question.
All right, move to the question. Can I take this by voice vote? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? 1 no. So we are now, I don't know, what was this, an hour ago? We're voting on Article 17. It's the motion on Article 17, which is appropriating free cash, $30,000 for evaluating salary. Okay? So if everyone's ready, I would like you to open the voting on 17.
Mr. Moderator?
Yep.
Just a point of parliamentary procedural order. Do you have
Go ahead.
motion before you for approval, to approve article, to appropriate the funds?
Huh?
Do you have the main motion before you sign?
I have the main motion.
Okay, thank you.
Vote is open. Voting's open.
Mr. Moderator, is the voting open? Yes.
Yes. I'll close the voting. $131 yes, 41 no. Motion carries. I would need the motion for 16. Read onto the, no, you got it.
Article 17, appropriate funds to evaluate and no.
Should be Article 16.
16. There you go. Okay. Appropriate funds for continued facilities planning. I move to appropriate from free cash the sum of $150,000 for continued planning for an intergenerational community center and or senior center as specified in Article 16 as printed in the warrant.
As you may recall, we laid this on the table until Article 17 was dispensed of. So I will, on the motion for Article 16, I'll now open that.
Want recommendations?
Oh, yeah. Recommendations for the Select Board.
The Select Board recommends unanimously.
Finance Committee.
Finance Committee recommends.
Okay. So can we open the voting on Article 16?
16's open.
16's open. I'll close the voting. $152.22. Motion carries. Article 18, Mr. Massey.
Mr. Moderator, Article 18, I move to approve Article 18 as printed in the warrant.
Recommendation from the Select Board.
Select Board recommends 4-0 with one member absent.
Finance Committee.
Finance Committee recommends.
Further discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote on Article 18. Would you open the voting for 18? It's open. I'll close the voting. Yes, 141, no, 7. Motion carries. Article 19, Mr. Studo.
Authorize Select Board to acquire interest in land for sidewalk at 239 North Street, map 14, lot 10. I move to approve Article 19 as printed in the warrant.
Recommendation for the Select Board.
3-1 with one absent.
Finance Committee.
Finance Committee recommends.
Further discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote on Article 19. It is now open. I'll close the voting. $132 yes, 14 no. Motion carries. Article 20.
Mr. Moderator.
Mr. Pierce.
Article 20 is to amend the zoning bylaw for the floodplain district. I move to approve Article 20 as printed in the warrant.
Recommendation from the Select Board.
Select Board recommends 4 to 1, one member absent. 4 to 0, sorry, one member absent.
Finance Committee. Mr. Pierce, did you want to
The planning board
discuss it?
recommends 3 to 1.
Okay. Mr. Kelly.
Yes, as being directly affected by this zoning, or by the floodplain district, I'm very curious as to what the rationale or the reasoning behind a 3 to 1 vote. And why would you vote against this? I'd like to know what the intelligence is that would generate a no vote on this. So I'm not aware of a downside. And if there is one, I would very much like to know what that is. So if the CPC would be kind enough to enlighten me as to why they voted a 3 to 1 on this, I would appreciate it. One other thing, which is not, I don't mean to add any levity to the proceedings, but we could have saved a fortune tonight by increasing the temperature by at least 2 or 3 or 4 degrees. It's a well-known fact, and all of you here can use this in your own homes. A reduction of your heat temperature by 1 degree for 1 hour results in 1% savings. The same applies on the cooling side by increasing it 1 degree. So I hope we can take that and apply it to our pocketbooks as we are trying to do here tonight. But getting back to the point, I will hand it over to the CPC for a response. Thank you very much.
Warren, did you want to answer it or someone else?
Well, actually, the member who voted against it is not here tonight. So and I have not a clue why he voted against it.
Don Putney, 20 Riverside Drive. With regard to the section B where they're changing the word after number 5, prohibited uses, it uses the term accessory structures or buildings for human abode, but it wants to exempt accessory dwelling units. Can you tell me the difference between a dwelling unit for human abode and an accessory structure? They're the same. It looks like a double negative. I wish somebody would reword it. If you want to get rid of it, strike it. But they're putting a wording in inappropriately.
Danielle, please.
Yes, I will try to address that. So the reason we had to, I know that this isn't exactly your question, but I'll just explain. So for that section, for prohibited uses, we were advised to add language exempting accessory dwelling units from what is a total prohibition in the, or what was a total prohibition in the flood zone, since that's not enforceable under state law, with the state's new ADU regulations in place. But ADU construction is still subject to permitting requirements under the floodplain bylaw, and ADUs in the flood zone would still be treated like a single-family house in the flood zone, which means that it would need a special permit. Now, to address your question, the exact wording of that It was initially, when the Attorney General's office identified that the language was problematic, my initial suggestion was to eliminate it entirely. But after consultation with town council, there was concern that eliminating it entirely was a little bit too different from what the Attorney General's office had actually intended, and that there was a risk that it could raise further problems. As to the question of what's the difference between an accessory structure for human habitation and an accessory dwelling unit, I can't answer that question because I really don't know. I don't think there is a difference, but there was concern that if we eliminated it entirely, it was, it deviated a little bit too much from what the Attorney General was telling us was problematic.
Further discussion? All right, seeing none, I will open, this requires a 2/3 majority. I will open the voting for Article 20. It's open. I'll close the voting. Close it, please. 122 yes, 13 no, motion carries. I'll entertain
Mr.
my
Moderator.
favorite motion.
Mr. Moderator, I move to adjourn this meeting sine die. Thank you very much for attending this evening. Greatly appreciated. Nice to see everybody.
All those in favor of adjourning, please say aye. Aye. Unanimous. Thank you all and drive safely.